Okay, so I'm switching gears a little bit, and I'm still adding on to as I go along to transits that I miss, but or not transits, but placements in Synastry and just in the birth chart. I just keep adding on. I bounce around a little bit, but I finish everything as I come back to it. But you know what? This video is about the planet Venus conjuncting Sun. Now, I'm going to do the synastry aspect, and then I'm going to do another video with the birth chart aspect, because I want to do it separate. Okay, but with the synastry aspect, because like people love me talking about synastry, and it's probably because I have a very significant Libra placements when it comes to relationships. Okay, so Venus conjunct the Sun synastry, what I would say about this. This is a very good aspect in synastry to have. Because if you look at the Sun like a person's personality, that's pretty much what I look at the Sun as. A person's personality, a person's ego. Like 9 out of 10 times, okay? 9 out of 10 times, even when we go into the personal spaces, out of the public's eye, out of trying to play a part into our emotional spaces where we're supposed to switch to the moon, not a good amount of the time, a good amount of chances, people are still acting out of their Sun, especially the masculine. You have to understand this. They'll try to reject or to steer clear from the moon. Okay? Their moon placement. And you see this less in the feminine. However, I will say this though. Most of the time, whether masculine or feminine, people are going to more than likely try to present their Sun, especially if they grew up in trauma or just grew up not really knowing how to be vulnerable, and or getting taken advantage of with using their vulnerability. So with that being said, a person's personality and ego is the same as or made to feel extremely comforted in a person's, as when you're dealing with Venus, you're dealing with relationships, you're dealing with equalness, you're dealing with understanding, communication. And for me, communication is not just always verbal. Okay, so a natural communication between people is just having this understanding, like, okay, yeah, this is what it is. And you're dealing with the way a person values themselves, how they feel valued, is coming together. And it's not the most significant part, like the most significant placement to have, but it's high on compatibility, because here we go with individuals feeling safe. It's not causing you to really have to budge too much outside of yourself, because the Venus person values the Sun person's personality. You see what I'm saying? The way that the Sun acts validates the Venus, and Venus wants to be validated. The way that Venus looks, the way that Venus shows up in a relationship, the type of understanding that Venus may have, makes the Sun person feel confident being who they are, naturally being who they are. And who wouldn't want to feel confident being naturally who they are than the Sun person? And it just goes together. And then they switch, because we're talking about Venus. I say this time and time again. To me, whenever you're dealing with a natural, anything dealing with another person, it flips. The energy flips. And Venus is about partnerships and relationships, so it just naturally flips. It can flip, like, to where the Sun is validating, or the Venus is validating the Sun, and the Sun is making the Venus feel comfortable. That's just the way that the Sun acts, makes the Venus feel like, okay, Venusian energies a lot of time is going to want things like to be pampered, to feel like they are beautiful or very attractive, to, I mean, just like down to their mannerisms and their sensuality. And the Sun just shine. The Venus, I mean, bask in the light of the sun. They feel like they're seen. They feel like they are comforted. They feel like they can just be themselves. So this brings natural confidence even more to the Venus person, to be even more this beautiful, sensual, partneresque type energy. And if you feel good, you gonna make money. You see what I'm saying? Because your money is tied to that. Now I know it goes deeper than that, and this is what these two sometimes miss, or they become aware of later. Sometimes, like the longer they're in a relationship, they start both possibly start wanting more, or let's say wanting more out of the connection or something, or let's say one of them change, because let's say the sun person has this life-altering experience to where something about them makes them go deeper or feel like they can do without the protection of the ego. So they make these changes, and now they want something deeper. They go deeper within themselves. They learn to be more vulnerable because of life experiences or whatever. And them moving from that sun place, more to being feeling comfortable and operating in the moon or the exalted aspect of that sun position. Oh, okay, let's say you have Gemini, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, but the exalted form of it is Venus. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't, when the sun go into a more exalted state of being, I'm not saying that it doesn't, it can't, the two people can't stay together, and it doesn't prove to be good for the Venus person, because sometimes it could be. But a lot of times, if the Venus person hasn't made the change also, they'll start to feel like, okay, so why am I not enough now? Or like, why is oh gosh, like somebody's flushing the toilet in the background. Or why am I, it's like, why is sun not giving me or responding to me the same? Like, what more are they looking for me? And they can both grow if they can understand that the individual changes that they're making is not to affect the other one in a negative way. It's just that now it's time for them to go to the next level, and now it's time for them to advance, in their walk in life. But, that's the conflict that I see. But other than that, it's like they're very supportive of each other. And just, you can see them chilling, talking, having fun, like conversating, being willing to help each other out, and just being each other's confidant, like naturally, and loving each other, and and feel there's this warmth to the relationship or to their interactions with each other. And I like this. Depending on what signs that is in, I get it. It gives a little bit of a different angle to this. But all in all, like, if you do have other synastry aspects that clash a little bit, this particular aspect could be really strong. Like, they're attracted to each other. And so this makes them more sensual towards each other. Like, they'll be touchy-feely. And if you put this in the 10th house or even the 1st house, it's almost like it's hard for them to keep their hands off of each other. Sun, kind of similar to Mars, but a little bit different, because it's more in like a more of a light, like touchy-feel, like touch, the soul, just hug, versus the Mars, which is, I'll do a video on this, versus the Mars being really turned on in, in this way to where it's like, dang, I can't, like, my deepest desire is to do A, B, or Z. Sun is like, it's more like a supportive, energetic thing, giving and sending each other energy, and you can get it through and receive it through each other's touch and being around each other. They don't have to be touching. Just them being around each other brings that same energy, and people see it, and people look at them like, wow, I like this. Like, this is an ideal couple. Like I said, especially like if it's in the 10th house, the first house, maybe even the fifth. The fifth, I say that where it can go wrong and it can be a little bit combative is when it's the receiving attention. If one person is receiving, their jealousy can start up, because it's like, okay, well, you're receiving this attention. Who are these people? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's checking you out, and or who is this person that's complimenting you, and it can turn into a competitive thing because you have two different identities, but it's trying to blend there all together and at once, and you know what I'm saying, and then it's being competitive, and then it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be a friendly competitiveness, but still, that's there. And then in the eighth house, it can be, highly sensual and emotional. Venus and the sun are not emotional planets. Now, put a certain sign there, it can provoke the emotions, but it doesn't have to be overly emotional. I know, like, Scorpios, that's emotional, but that sometimes they won't be. They can withhold those emotions, or if they have other placements that take them out of that aspect, it'll be like, okay, well, they're emotional about some things, or they won't show it. Sometimes not showing your emotions is just kind of like not having them, but so that all matters. But like, if you put these two in the eighth house, it can definitely become very emotional, like together, like they're being very triggered by each other. Definitely hard to separate. Intertwining like properties and cars and getting married and all this stuff, and then being stuck there or having a hard time getting out of it. Like really, you know. But they can accumulate more together, more money, more possessions, all of that, So I'm not going to go too much on the negative end of it. I will say that it can, out of what I just said, you can see how all of that can flip and turn not so good. And, that's the part where I was talking about, when one of them changes or one of them grows or one of them is ready to move past a relationship. I kind of feel like, and it's hard to do, but I kind of feel like even people, sometimes this couple is like, feels like people project onto them, because even people would judge them surfacely and like, oh, y'all got this, y'all got that, and they're like, yeah, I'm glad that we have that, but no, really, we mean more to each other than the material stuff, or really, like, it ain't like I'm using him, or it's not like I'm just using her for her beauty. Like, people can be very surface with the relationship and not understand it. Or you got some people that think like y'all are perfect and like, oh, I want y'all's relationship, but they don't know that on a deeper level there may be other hangups there, like emotional, and different things of that nature. But all in all, this is a good synastry aspect to have. And this is Sun conjunct Venus, Venus conjunct Sun synastry. Like and subscribe, because I will be posting more. Yes, I said more.